Hi, welcome to my art vlog. My name is Lila. It is a pseudonym. I'm using my dog's name. I'm borrowing it from her. She is much more adorable than I am. Here's Lila. This is our sleepy little Lila. This is our sleep. Oh, thank you. Thank you for your poopy kisses. Lila loves to eat shit, but we love her anyway. Lila, this is your channel. Yeah, this is your art channel. You love it? Say hi to the people. Say hi to everyone. Say yes. Say yes. She says, Mommy, where's my picture? You have 2 pictures of Xander and then 1 picture of a random doogie, but you don't have any pictures of me. Oh, we have to put pictures of you, don't we, Lils? Yes, we love you. Yes, we love you. Yes, we do. They all love you too. Tell them to click and subscribe. Yeah, tell them to click and subscribe. Oh, my little yawn face. As you can see, she's like the cutest little teddy bear. Anyway, I just want to keep my professional life separate from my art passion. My professional life has absolutely nothing to do with art. That would be my day job. But I wanted to start an art vlog for a number of reasons. First, I wanted to just for myself document my art journey as a self-taught artist. And secondly, I know that there are a million art vlogs out there, and most of them are by very talented, experienced artists. You might be wondering, well, you're not one of those, so why are you making this art vlog? And it is because I felt that it would be nice for people to see, especially for those beginner artists that want a sense of, I know that there are other people out there like me who are starting to get into art passionately in their adult life, and not just as a 9, 10-year-old or a 15, 16-year-old, or even as a 20, 21-year-old. I am 40 years old, and I started seriously doing art 3 months ago, and I wanted to just give people inspiration that they too can give themselves permission to start art, even if they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, or if they're in their 30s, or even if they're 25 years old, but they have a professional life and they're working on a professional career, to give themselves inspiration to do art as a passion or a side passion or a hobby, that art is not just for professional artists. Okay, I'm changing spots just for a few minutes. So I started doing art, or actually started getting interested in doing art and not just observing art back in 2011, which is now 12 years ago. But when I first started, I was in a professional school. I mean a non-artistic professional school. It had absolutely nothing to do with work. It was in healthcare, and I was surrounded by a bunch of MDs and PhDs and physicists and scientists. And when I bought oil painting supplies, a lot of people around me were very confused as to what I was doing because it was so discordant with my job. And it was at such an advanced age it was considered an advanced age because I had no background in it. And so I had people saying all sorts of things to me. My mom, for example, told my brother to find me a husband because I was bored and I was painting. I had a friend tell me, you're not actually going to be good at that, right? So why are you doing it? I had someone else say, why don't you just read medical journals, because that's what your career is in. And I had another friend say to me, maybe you should just write a book because you're much better at writing. You don't even know how to draw. So I had all of these voices in my head that hampered me, and I had inner voices too that hampered me from doing a daily art practice. I bought these painting supplies or even just like graphite pencils, and I would do it once a month or once every 2 months, which comes out to like 5 to 10 times per year. And I obviously didn't progress at all, really. Like, I really didn't progress. And it took me a full 12 years to start. It took me a full 12 years to start a daily art practice. I just started it this past November when I got my puppy, my Lila, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to do painting even really just once a month or twice a month. So I said, I don't want to give myself yet another excuse of why I can't do daily art. So I am going to get Lila. I'm going to obviously pay attention to my little puppy and train her and make sure that she's growing into a healthy, happy puppy. But I will still seriously start my art practice because I don't want yet another excuse as to why I can't do it. So I bought a sketchbook and I said I was going to draw in there, draw or do a watercolor every single day. And I have noticed a drastic difference. And as I have been processing why it took so long for me to get to this point, I've realized that I had all of these different myths in my head as to who artists are, who can start an art practice. And up until now, I felt, because of these inner and outer voices, I felt super foolish doing art every day and not being good at it. I felt like I didn't have the right to do it, that I was just frankly being completely dumb trying to do art as an adult. Lila. That I felt really stupid trying to do art as an adult, and particularly as a professional adult. Hold on, Lila. Yeah, she went out to potty. So I felt just really stupid. I keep looking over here. I felt just really stupid doing it on a daily basis, and I figured if I, as a beginner artist, share my journey with other people will also give themselves permission to do it daily, whether or not they're professional artists, whether or not they're full-time artists, whether or not they're going to be ever a professional artist, and to not let those inner and outer voices hamper them from embarking on this amazing art adventure. It really, truly is an amazing hobby or practice to allow yourself to do. And I want other people to give themselves permission to do it, and not let these myths prevent them from doing it on a daily basis, and to not feel guilt or shame or embarrassment as to why they're doing it, and not make up excuses as to why they shouldn't do it even when they really, really want to do it. So we'll get into the myths now, and I hope when you listen to these myths that I had up in my head that you will learn to let go of it much faster than I did, and give yourself the space, the time, the priority, and the permission to go ahead and start a daily art practice. And to start off, I will get into the top 10 myths beginner artists believe in that might put up barriers into embracing an art practice. These are the myths that I found myself believing in, and I think it took me like more than a decade. It took me 13 years to realize that all of this was up in my head and it was impeding a daily art practice. I thought that if I shared it with all of you, you would be less likely to waste 10 to 15 years of your life not fully embracing art because you believe in one of these beliefs that I believed in. So let's go ahead and get started. I might go ahead and split this video into 2 videos because I do have a tendency of talking for a longer period of time, but I will try to be a little bit concise. Okay, myth number 1. I'm an adult and I have spent X number of years training in this incredibly difficult field. I may even be an expert in my field, and surely when I start doing art, it's going to be easy and I'm going to make beautiful art right away. No, absolutely not. Definitely not. This is insulting to both you and the professional artist that has been doing it for decades, or the non-professional, even the person who does it as a hobby but has been doing it as a hobby since the age of 5. It's insulting to both of you. Think about that statement. I spent, if you include college, I spent 4 years of college, and then 4 years of professional school, and then 5 years of training, and I even did 2 years of research. So 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 plus 5 is 13, right? 8 plus 5 is 13, and then 13 plus 2 is 15. I spent 15 years to get to the point of where I can actually do my job independently and proficiently and extremely well. So why would I think that on day one of picking up art supplies, I'm going to actually be able to do that right away? If it took me 15 years to get to where I am in this other job, it may actually take me 15 years in art to get to where the professional arts that I adore get to. Whether you're Picasso or Van Gogh or the person on YouTube that you admire, it took them many years of training their eye, training their hand muscles, because that neural circuit between your what you see in your hand muscles and also what you see in your brain, that takes effort. And then to learn your materials on top of developing those neural circuits, because you have to learn how those colored pencils or those oil pastels or those soft pastels or watercolors or how they work and interact with each other. You have to learn color theory, composition, and not to make it boring. Those things can be incredibly fun to learn as long as you're enjoying the process. But that is why you should not believe that this is an overnight, you pick it up and you're perfect at it. There is no way. And I actually believe this. When I did this is actually my very first painting, and I actually really like it. This is the first oil painting I had ever done in my life. And this was the first time I had picked up any kind of art supplies from middle school to the age of I don't know, I think it was before 30. But so at least 15 years had gone by between picking up art supplies and doing this. So I think that's actually pretty good. But then the next painting I made was Girl with a Pearl Earring, and I had it up on my wall, and my brother was like, "Oh, did you make that?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." And he was like, "Oh, that's actually pretty good." And I said to him, and I genuinely meant this, and I said to him, and I was like, "Yeah, but it doesn't look like the real thing." And he looked at me, and he was just like, "Did you just say it doesn't look like the real thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, it doesn't look like the painting that Vermeer did." And he was like, "Are you expecting it to look like that?" And I was like, "Well, kind of, yeah. I mean, I'm just copying what he did, so should it be hard?" And he was like, "So, you think that the second time you pick up art supplies that you don't even know how to use, and they're probably not even high-grade art supplies, and you've never taken a painting class, you've never done an apprenticeship, you don't actually even know how to draw with a pencil, you think that the first time or the second time that you do a painting, it's going to be as good as a master painter that several hundred years later is recognized as being a master painter. And he probably started at the age of 12 or 13 doing an apprenticeship, working maybe anywhere from 40 to 90 hours a week, just drawing and painting until he finally did that. And on top of that, he probably did have good painting supplies. And on top of that, he probably just kept painting the same thing over and over again, because actually he did. If you look at his paintings, that pearl earring comes up in a lot of his paintings. And if you look at his paintings, some of the models he used, I call them characters, they're obviously models. Some of the models he uses, they're the same woman in different paintings. And some of the clothing they wear, he has that yellow cape in a lot of his paintings. And he was in the same studio with the same lighting. And he didn't paint in the evenings without natural light because there was no electricity. And it's doubtful he painted by candlelight. So maybe he did. I'm not an expert on Vermeer. So when my brother said this to me, I realized how unbelievably arrogant it was and how demeaning it was to Vermeer and to all artists, all professional artists, for me to think, oh, the second I pick up a paintbrush, I'm going to be as good as Vermeer, even trying to copy it. That's obviously not going to happen. And if I go into art expecting that, obviously I'm going to get disappointed, and then I'm going to be less likely to do it. So that is myth number one. Just because you're good at something else as an adult doesn't mean you're going to be good at art as an adult immediately. At least not yet. Later, yes. Not yet. I mean, I don't mean later, yes, that in several hundred years your paintings are going to sell for hundreds of millions of dollars, or even $1,000. I just mean that you are going to progress. But also, we should tamper down our expectations, or not even tamper, what are our expectations? If you look at this from a different perspective, Are you, as the beginner artist, especially the beginner as an adult, are you seriously making art so that 400 years from now people ooh and ah at your artwork in an art museum and you don't even know because you're dead? No, I'm pretty sure you are not doing that. I'm pretty sure most beginner artists don't even ever expect to have their artwork up in a museum. You're probably just doing it for fun. I know that I'm doing it for fun. Um, and I want to maintain that the primary reason I do it is fun. If it sells, great. That's awesome. That's wonderful. And especially if I accumulate artwork or paintings or canvases, I probably am not going to have enough storage space to hold on to those pieces. But that is not the primary reason I'm doing this. The primary reason I'm doing it is because I just think it's so amazing that you can take something that's blank and turn it into this beautiful thing that didn't exist before. And I also love that the iterations of art, like the number of ways that you can combine art supplies together to make something, it's infinite. So it's this like massive unknown adventure that I get to be a part of, because I'm not going to be able to control everything that happens in that process. So it is me being a part of a process. That is the biggest reason that I'm doing this. That is the biggest reason that I'm doing this. It's not because I expect several hundred years from now anybody's oohing and awing at my artwork. You're probably just doing it for fun, but because you're an adult, you're losing sight of the fact that you're doing it for fun, because from our school system, whether it was elementary school, middle school, high school, or college, we have been trained, especially if we went to school when I went to school and before, we have been trained to do things that we're good at. Just think about the schooling that I'm thinking about the schooling that I had. We were reprimanded in school when we made bad stuff, when we didn't get the right answer, when we didn't write the essay that the teacher expected. We were, even if we put in an effort, we were reprimanded with a bad grade. We got B's, C's, D's, F's, rather than being complimented on the process and the effort that we put in. We were reprimanded for producing bad work. And you probably have internalized that approach to learning anything new from your childhood years of schooling or college years of schooling. And you probably, your body, even if you vocally say no, I don't believe that, you subconsciously probably believe that you shouldn't do art because you're not already good at it. So don't bring your ridiculous expectations and school baggage into your art process, especially as a beginner when you're first learning. When you're first learning, it's a delicate time. So try to release all of that judgment and just have a lot of fun. Okay, myth number 2. It kind of goes along with myth number 1. I have to make good art or else I shouldn't do it. Firstly, good art is relative. I was actually just on the phone with my friend. We do this once a week session where we talk about, I talk about my art adventures and she talks about her adventures and her entrepreneurial process. And I was telling her about how there was a YouTube artist that has several 100,000 followers. And I was like, I actually don't like her artwork, but clearly hundreds of thousands of people do. And I was like, if I made artwork like that, I would look at my own artwork and say I don't like it. I actually can't make what she makes, so I'm not saying that what she makes is easy or silly. What she makes is difficult, and many people believe that what she makes is beautiful. To my eyes, they aren't, because beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So first of all, good is relative. It might be that something you make that you don't like, somebody else will love. It might be that something you love, somebody else doesn't like. And there's also a wide variety and breadth of art existence. I love cute stickers, literally the cute stickers that you would place on a notebook, as much as I love Andrew Wyeth and Georgia O'Keeffe. And all those artists at Sotheby's that gets auctioned off for hundreds of millions of dollars. Both of them bring me an equal amount of joy, honestly. I seriously think, like, sometimes when I look at a really cute stationery, it brings me just so much joy in my life. So beautiful artwork is relative. Secondly, you don't have to make good art, even art that you like, to love actually making art. 98% of the joy of art is in creating. It's an adventure. Just like I just said a few minutes ago, that you, in a few minutes or a few hours, or even if it takes you a few months, can take nothing, something that wasn't there, and make it exist. You literally are taking something that was not there before and you are making it exist, and the combinations of the things you can make are endless and infinite, and that process carries with it like the same scope that the universe does. You have no idea where you're going to end up when you first start. And I mean that both with one piece and a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later. You're never really going to get to an end point. Remember when you were a child and you just loved making art? Your parents would give you those crayons and you just did it for the sheer joy. That is, as I said before, my primary goal for art is to look at these beautiful colored pencils. They're so beautiful. To take these and look at how beautiful this color is. I love this color. And then look at how beautiful this color is. I love this color too. Is to take these things and just make something fun with it. And sometimes it is just freeing to scribble around and have fun. Other times I do it more considerately and slowly and pensively. But either way, my main goal is to have this feeling of joy and fun and release and freedom the way children have. I think as a beginner artist, that really should be your primary joy. And I hope even as a later, more advanced artist that it's your primary joy, because otherwise, why are you even doing it? If you're only doing it to sell art, then you're turning it into turning it into a chore, a 9-to-5 job rather than a passion. And I know that as adults, we lose the freedom of enjoying ourselves as adults. We truly do. We always feel like we have to justify every second or moment of our lives. And I'm going to actually do a video on that one day, on appreciating a freer, slower life. But we live, especially in this time period, in a time where we have to constantly be producing, hustling, making money, or somehow justifying our existence. And generally we use monetary compensation as justification for what we're doing. And that's just a horrible way. That's a horrible thing to do to art, which is just so beautiful. So remember, you don't have to make good art to make art. You don't have to justify sitting down to enjoy making art by the end result. Your whole goal should be to enjoy it. Embrace that inner child. Myth number 3. I need a lot of good art supplies to make art. No, you actually don't. I mean, it helps, especially for painting supplies, to have high quality painting supplies just because the colors are richer and more vibrant. But in the end, the only thing you need is a pen or a pencil. I don't have a pencil immediately in front of me. But okay, a pen or a pencil. This is a colored pencil. All you need is a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper, and you can start doing art. Some of my favorite artworks is just contour drawings. My favorite pen is the Micron Sakura, Sakura pen, and it costs $3.50 at Michael's. And then this is my sketchbook. It's the Royal Talents one that everybody has. I actually got it on a Jackson's Art Supply sale for $5. You can get it on Amazon for $13. You don't even need this. You can just use like a mid composition, honestly, and draw on it. So do not use the excuse of I need extremely fancy, luxurious, nice art supplies in order to do my art. You will get to a point where you will want to use nicer art supplies, but if you're in a place where you can't run out and get that, that's not what you need. It's really not what you need. Actually, one of the people that I follow on Instagram, and I don't remember which Instagram account I follow this person. If I find him, I will try to put his Instagram account in my thing. He produces really beautiful artwork with, I believe, like just one of those 3-color big pens. He also makes really beautiful big art pieces. But the point is, you don't need something extremely expensive in order to make amazing art. I actually do have probably a whole store's worth of art supplies because I've developed an art supply addiction. But I can tell you that some of my favorite drawings was actually just done with a pen, which is like a $3 pen. It wasn't the luxury art supplies that were my favorite drawings. I'm actually even trying to think if any one of my luxury art supplies are my best work, and I can't think of any. Most of what I think of, it was like done with other cheaper art supplies. Probably because I felt more free doing it. Myth number 4. I need time to make art. I need a 4 or 8 hour block of time, or I need a whole weekend to do art. No, you don't. And that is one of the biggest excuses I use because I've always been really busy with my day job. And one of the biggest excuses was like, I can't do this until there's one whole day I can spend doing art. First of all, I actually don't even have the attention span to sit there for 4 to 8 hours to doing the same thing. It's probably why I also have a million different type of art supplies, because I get bored doing the same thing over and over again. That includes using the same art supplies over and over again. So it's pretty doubtful that if you actually even are able to carve out 4 or 8 hours of interrupted time, you have to sit there, that you're actually going to be able to sit there and do art for that long. You're not going to be able to do that. It's very doubtful. You would have to have a high level of concentration and discipline in order to do that. Pretty doubtful you're going to be doing that. That's not feasible anyway for the vast majority of us in our lives. I've found that just sitting down for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and doing drawings, like quick drawings, that helps train my eye and my hand in order to be able to see objects and draw them. And it's actually a lot of fun. And actually, a lot of times when you sit down for 5 minutes to do something, you'll probably end up doing it for more like 15 minutes to an hour. But anyway, you don't even need that hour. Some of the best sketches that I have done was while watching my dogs play. My dogs are lovely, but when they play, they want their mom around to watch them play. They get extra joy from playing when I'm around to watch them play. It can be a little bit exasperating because sometimes I'm like, can you just go down to the basement and play without me? But no, they want me around too, which I appreciate that they love me. But I actually now keep a little notebook downstairs in the basement so that when I'm down there, I can quickly do a doodle. And a lot of times what I actually do is doodle them while they're playing, which obviously dogs playing, they move around a lot. But you end up actually with some really fun, super quick sketches that show a lot of movement. So they're nothing I would show to anyone or try to sell. But they have taught me a little about how to capture movement and what kind of lines to have, because I'm literally trying to capture the constant movement of the dogs. So what my point of this is that whatever situation you're in, you can actually utilize that specific situation to sketch and draw. I realize that if you're in a more public place, you might be more shy about doing it, but you know what? If you're just sitting around with your kids, maybe you have a little notebook in your hand and you're doodling them. If you're cooking and you're waiting for something to simmer or boil for a certain number of minutes, maybe you sit there and you draw the pot. It is way better to do something daily for 10 minutes or 15 minutes at a time than to wait 2 months to get that 4 to 8 hour chunk of time to do art, which you're not gonna even use that time. Myth number 5: I have to take a class to learn how to do art. Not at all. I can tell you that I actually have probably spent thousands of dollars, unfortunately, taking art classes, and over the past decade, and at the end of it, I can't say that any one of those art classes really helped me specifically. What helped me was committing to doing daily art in a sketchbook. And I mean in a sketchbook because you're more likely to be free and experiment, and there's less pressure than using a $5, $10, $15, $20 canvas. I don't have any $20 canvases, but even the $10 canvases or the $5 canvases, sketchbook, it's so conveniently easy. You can experiment easily, so you're more likely to produce a lot more. And when you produce a lot more, you're more likely to learn what works and what doesn't work, at least. But I have found that despite taking all of those art classes from a lot of different type of artists, the best way I have learned is to actually do the art myself. I have a tendency of watching the videos of these artists, but then actually not doing what they're telling me that I should do. A lot of times it's just because, you know what? I might like what they produce at the end, but it isn't, the subject matter is just not what I want to paint. And if I don't want to paint it, it's very hard for me to put in an to invest my thinking energy into making that piece. Everybody's different, so you can decide for yourself. Rather than sitting there and waiting to have enough money or time to take an art class, it's much better to pull out that sketchbook and make a drawing daily. It's also hard with art classes, I have found, because you need to find a teacher that clicks with your type of learning. Some are better at teaching, others are worse at teaching, but sometimes it's not even a matter of better or worse. It's just a matter of, does it work for your learning process? So that can be really difficult to find. And if you're taking a bunch, that can be a huge monetary and time investment to take all of these different art classes to find the artist for you. By all means, I do think it's really nice to support artists when they have art classes available to take them. Just don't let it hamper you from starting your art journey. But just to emphasize, watching another person make art is absolutely no substitute for you yourself making art. I literally spent probably the last 2 or 3 years thinking, oh, if I watch this tutorial, if I take this class, if I watch these videos, I'm going to just absorb it by osmosis and figure it out. No, the way you figure it out is by actually doing it yourself. The way you figure it out is by actually doing it yourself. You have to actually use your supplies and learn how it works for you to actually get better. And also, the only way your brain is going to teach your hand what to do is by your hand actually picking up the art supply to do it. The more you do it, the more the pathway gets reinforced, and your brain and your body will get better at talking to each other and producing a good sketch. And then one day, after doing it regularly for so many weeks or months or years, depends on what you're trying to draw, it'll become a fairly routine process to just start sketching. First of all, you get rid of that fear. I've actually now gotten rid of the fear of starting new. Sometimes I might not know what I want to paint, but I'm much less fearful about about picking up a pencil and starting the process. But it will one day become pretty routine to make a pretty decent sketch. You will get there one day, but you have to put in the practice, and you have to make a lot of shitty art to get to the good art. Again, all of those artists you admire, they made tons and tons and tons, mountains, piles, universes of shitty art before they got to where they are. But do remember that there will always be struggles every so often, because that is part of the beauty of this process. If it were too easy, we wouldn't do it. Why would we ever do anything that's too easy? That would get boring very quickly. All right. Goodbye.